Hello, world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so good to be with all of you today. It is April 15th, Wednesday, the epicenter of yet another very, very busy broadcast week and the epicenter of the month as well. I hope you're all doing well. We're broadcasting live on Rumble. We're live on Twitter, Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV. We're live on Facebook, live on Substack, live on YouTube. And I love seeing all of those names pop up on those live chats. The SJ Show, independent, not left, not right, just the truth, straight up, no chasers every day. And we're growing exponentially, reaching over 1 million eyes and ears every single month, doing close to 10, 15 million impressions on all of the different platforms. And I couldn't do it without all of you. If you're watching today for the very first time, please say hello in those live chats. Annie Cyrus is producing the Shannon Joy Show today. She is amazing, and she's keeping an eye on Substack, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So if you have questions or comments, you're going to want to pop those up in the comment section. Annie will find them and send them to me. Big hello and welcome to our live chatters, the feistiest of all the live chatters right here on Rumble. Zayetta, I see you today on the live chat. Mark the Regan is with us. Vaccine hesitancy is no longer a fringe belief. I'll take it a step further. You see the headline of today's show. America goes full scale anti-vax. And I'm going to defend that statement in just a few minutes as we go through the news of the day. Bombshell polling, absolute stunner coming out of Politico. This is showing that almost half of Americans are now skeptical of COVID vaccines, the vaccine schedule, flu shots, and vaccines in general. This is massive. And I will remind you, anyone that questions a vaccine or wonders about vaccines or has a little bit of hesitancy about a certain vaccine or another has been labeled an anti-vaxxer for the past 25 years. Viciously. The bots, the trolls, the paid sponsors, the paid medical doctors, the trust the science people wearing 17 masks and vaccinated 7 or 8 or 9 times come out of the woodwork and they smash you with the anti-vaxxer label. Well, now it appears that almost 50% of Americans would fall into the category of the dreaded anti-vaxxer. And that is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Another indication, as I've told you, that the normies are waking up, that more and more Americans who are outside of the political circus are beginning to realize that things have gone bonkers. Our politicians are mad. Both sides of the political aisle are corrupt, and they are driving our nation and our future and our children's futures off a cliff. And so this is good. It is a good thing, and it's coming amidst other news of Americans waking up as well. So we are going to talk about that today. It's one of the reasons that I have decided to join Larry Sharpe, the independent candidate for governor of New York State, on the ticket as his lieutenant governor. We announced that yesterday, and I know all of you have a ton of questions. And so we're going to talk about that today as well. I'm going to take all of your comments, all of your questions. Apparently, there is a whole gaggle of very angry Republicans on Facebook. I announced on Facebook via post yesterday. And from what I've been told, there are the haters and the have no fundsers and the Debbie Downers and the negative Nancys and all of the people saying, why are you doing this? This is stupid. You're going to ruin this for the Republicans. Yeah, I would like to ruin it for the Republican political class who lose on purpose every single cycle and have been doing so for the past 25 years here in New York State. It's why we can never win elections. So yeah, I'm voting against Democrats who are driving this state and our country off a cliff. And I'm also voting against corrupt Republicans who are doing the same thing, understanding that the D's and the R's work together in a power sharing arrangement. They do so in New York State. It's obvious in Washington, D.C., and it's becoming more obvious to normies across the United States of America. So something has to give. At some point, we have to stop doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results. We have to do something different. And this is why I decided to join up with Larry Sharpe. And we have a plan. And we have a mission. We have goals and objectives that are reachable and attainable. And I want to talk to all of you about that at the end of the show. We're going to do a full-scale 30-minute Q&A. You can ask me all of your questions about what our plan is here in New York State over the next 5 weeks and into the foreseeable future. We are going to be separating the Shannon Joy Show, this show that I bring to you every day, live, 90 minutes of live original content, some of the best guests in the world on the Shannon Joy Show. That's not going to change, but we are going to set up certain broadcasts and certain shows that we will be devoting to this political candidacy. And that is because I want to do due diligence. I was scouring FCC on the rules and regulations regarding business owners, podcasters who are running for political campaigns. And the reality is that as a podcaster, there are very few rules, but that doesn't make it necessarily safe. And so I want to separate this from what I am doing politically here in New York State as a candidate. And so I'll explain that to all of you. We'll have full disclosures when we have that discussion at the end of the show. And you guys can ask me all of your questions. So we're going to outline for today's show towards the end. I'm running for lieutenant governor along with Larry Sharpe. And we're going to go over what to expect, how you can help, how you can get involved, and answer all of your questions. We are also going to discuss some of the headlines of the day. Really, really important news out there. I cannot overstate how important this stunner poll is, showing almost half of Americans now questioning vaccine safety. This is coming from someone who has been reporting on vaccine injury and death. I have been reporting on the VAERS vaccine adverse event reporting system. We've been reporting on pharmaceutical liability protection that has been built into the letter of the law and embedded in case law, along with legislation, state legislation, and federal legislation, which shields vaccine makers and producers from any liability whatsoever. And this is why so many vaccines are killing people today, because they face no consequences. And the reality is people are dying. They are being killed by the flu shot. They're being killed by COVID vaccines. They're being killed by routine vaccines, meningitis, MMR shots, plenty of the shots on the childhood schedule, shingle shots, you name it. Every single shot has a risk profile, and every single human has to do a risk benefit analysis when they consider any vaccine or medical intervention or injection. None of these discussions have been happening over the past 25 years. And as more and more Americans realize how toxic the COVID shots were, they're beginning to now extrapolate that skepticism to the entire schedule. And that is a good thing. Again, almost 50%. It's over, basically. I was talking with Sasha Latapova yesterday about this. And it's done. It's over. It's over. We just need to keep pushing. There's also really devastating news. This is an insane headline regarding a West Virginia appeals court that has outrageously rejected religious exemptions for a student attending an online school. Yes, you heard me right. An online virtual school where infectious disease cannot possibly be spread, all right? A three-panel of judges in an appeals hearing have now ruled against the parents of the student and ripped away a religious exemption, a philosophical exemption, not only for this child, but for every child in West Virginia, for an online virtual school. Again, let me reiterate, infectious disease cannot possibly spread when you are virtual. Yet it doesn't matter. So still embedded in the legislation and in courts across America are these faulty rulings. We have the entire ruling here. We're going to go through some of that today. We also have amazing news about a miraculous treatment. We're going to lead off with this for the COVID vaccine injured. And this is being pioneered now in Japan by Dr. Kevin McCairn and his team. And if you recall, I hosted Lindsay House on the Shannon Joy show once or twice years ago. Beautiful young woman, has had her life completely ripped away from her. I mean, she was healthy. She was beautiful. She was a nurse. She was thriving. She was coerced to take a COVID shot, and it destroyed her life, destroyed her body. She's been fighting to live for the past 5 years. She's tried everything, every different type of protocol. She's in Japan today, and I just saw a video that she posted, and I almost wept seeing how healthy and how beautiful she looks right now. It is unbelievable. I know that Dr. Mary Talley Bowden has been, pushing out a lot of great information and is working on raising money for some of her patients in Texas to travel to Japan to get these treatments. It's unbelievable. And I have the down low on all of those treatments and what Dr. Kevin McCairn is doing. The old saying is absolutely true. Necessity is the mother of invention. And I believe these cures are coming because the market is demanding it. This ties into that 50% number of Americans who are now skeptical of vaccines because they know they can kill you, they can disable you, they can harm you. There are so many people who are sick and need help, or have a loved one or a family member who is sick and needs help because of the COVID shots, and we've been gaslit as a nation. Thou shalt not talk about vaccine injury. That is the rule that governs. That is the rule that dominates the right-wing media, left-wing media, Republicans and Democrats, save a few, right? We have 1 or 2 senators who will speak out about COVID-19 vaccine injury and death. We have a small handful of members of the House of Representatives that will speak out about COVID-19 vaccine injury and death, or vaccine injury and death in general. We have the random right-wing news media commentator who mentions they were injured by a COVID vaccine, but encourages their audience to trust the guy who rolled the vaccine out in the first place via Operation Warp Speed, Donald Trump, right? So we have these limited hangouts, half-truths, mistruths, never the full truth from anyone. And what we're witnessing today is the market now acting as a tsunami. You know, the dirty little secret that politicians don't want you to know about, that banksters don't want you to know about, that the institutions and the political parties don't want you to know about, is the fact that they are desperately trying to control the market. We, the people, 300 million Americans, right? They would like us to think that they're at the top, masterminding everything with their puppets. And they're right in a sense that that does work. But at some point, the market breaks through. And the proof is the amount of propaganda and censorship and gaslighting that they have perpetrated against the American people over the past 100 years. When you investigate the origins of the false science, the junk science, the quackery that is vaccination as health for Americans, you have to go back about 100 years. And then you realize that this was a $1 trillion or more operation, the most sophisticated propaganda operation I've ever witnessed in my life, starting with seed funding from chemical companies and oil companies to medical institutions, right? Lying about what medicine is, what health is, completely destroying the field of healing in the United States of America that existed before our modern medical industrial complex. And when you realize how desperately, how many billions, trillions of dollars they have to pump in to our society to convince us of these lies, you realize that it's precarious. They're hanging on by a thread and it's about to burst forth. And that should give you hope in a lot of areas, because there are a lot of lies out there outside of vaccines in the medical industrial complex, lies about endless wars in the military industrial complex, lies about politics, the false two-party political paradigm, the fact that Democrats and Republicans work together to fleece us, to steal from us, to cull the population and to control us. Lies about education. I mean, one lie after another after another. And at some point, there is a tipping point. And I think we're there. How do you all feel about all of that? And this is one of the reasons that I decided that now might be the time to try to run a campaign in the most corrupt state in the nation, New York State, known for its corruption. Now might be the time to try to do something virtuous, something the right way, right? With transparency and truth, linking up with Larry Sharpe. I probably wouldn't have done this a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I know I wouldn't have done this. Larry Sharpe has been trying to get me involved in his campaigning in New York State for about 10 years. And I've been doing the Heisman for 10 years. Something is different today, and we can talk about that a little bit later in the program. But I do want to go through these headlines. Another big headline that we're going to cover today briefly, and we'll cover it in more detail tomorrow. The wheels are falling off of the Trump crypto jalopy. The amount of fraud committed by Donald Trump, his sons, his family and his cronies is literally breathtaking. And World Liberty Financial, which you know about, we had Patrick on the Wood. We've done shows on this with Tiffany Cianci, Patrick Wood, and other financial experts. The amount of absolute blatant fraud in this family's dealings with crypto and the crypto community is unbelievable. They have made billions. They're engaging in pump and dumps. All their people are losing all of their money. It's horrifying. And this was the headline from the Daily Beast. I know it's a liberal left-leaning rag, but Trump family crypto project rocked by raging investor revolt. It's stamped mutiny, and that is the correct word, because all of this, the DeFi, it's decentralized finance. It is the wild west of cryptocurrencies. It's wildly unstable. It is riddled with scams, and it is basically what the Trump family is engaged in. They are fleecing their own people and laughing all the way to the bank, and it's horrifying. So we're going to talk about DeFi. We're going to talk about the Trump family crypto scandal in depth tomorrow. I have a couple pieces here that are very good. I have linked you up in my show notes to this piece, and you can get started on it, but it's horrifying. We've never seen anything like this. I mean, the Biden family is blushing in terms of their crimes and their scams and their schemes and the fraud and the insider trading and the pump and dumps and the pay to play, all of that. Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, it was vicious and disgusting. What we're witnessing with the Trump family is, 10x, 100x of what we saw with the Biden family and any of the previous crime families, the Bushes, the Clintons, the Obamas. Like, this takes the cake, and they're doing it in plain sight. So yeah, we're going to do that tomorrow. I do want to say hello to all of you. Before we get to these stories, we're going to talk about that Politico poll, and we're going to talk about the amazing healing that is happening in Japan, and also this insane ruling. An appeals court upholds West Virginia vaccine mandate, rejecting religious exemptions for online schools. Cannot make this up. But first, we are going to go to a quick break. We're going to thank our sponsors here on the Shannon Joy Show. When we come back, I'm going to say hello to all of you, take a couple of your comments, and then we'll get into these 3 stories. Then after that, as I promised, we're going to go deep into my decision to throw my hat into the political ring here in the most corrupt state in the nation, New York State, joining Larry Sharpe as he runs for governor of New York State as his lieutenant governor on the ballot. Every question that you have, I will answer. And yes, Kelly Wright, I see you on Facebook. How do you handle constant harassment from all of the boomers on your Facebook? I have a strong theme of Trump cultists and Trump humpers and MAGA worshipers on Facebook for whatever reason. And they do not like me. And they are angry. They are mad as hell that we're going to try to do something honest and truthful in running a campaign here in New York State that might make things a little difficult for the elite Republican political class in New York, the rhinos here in New York. Well, I'm not here to make things easy for the rhinos, and neither is Larry Sharpe. And frankly, if you're a Republican registered in New York, you shouldn't be making things easy for them as well. They lie, they cheat, they steal from you, they fake run for office, and they waste your time every 2 years, every 4 years, right? So you shouldn't be mad at me, okay? You should be mad at the infrastructure that has put us in the predicament that we are in today. But, you know, it's hard to break through. We're going to try to do it. So I see you, Kelly Wright. I see you on Facebook. I see all of you on the live chats as well. We're going to take your comments in just a moment when we come back right here on the Shannon Joy Show. Keep it tuned. And today I want to talk to you guys about ivermectin. I'm using their ivermectin cream right now, and it has been a lifesaver for rosacea. I haven't been dealing with acne or anything like that recently, but as I've aged, my skin has gotten bumpy and red, sometimes itchy, and I've been dealing with rosacea. The ivermectin cream from TWC is absolutely knocking it out. In fact, it started working within a day or 2 of using it, and I have not had any problems since. You know, if you think you're dealing with bad skin as an adult and acne, you might be dealing with something else, an untreated root cause. And it starts small. If you're like me, it's a little redness, a few bumps, and then it expands, and then it becomes consistent and persistent. You go through the cycle of doctor appointments, trying to figure out what's going on, one product after another, and you're not alone. So 25% of adults struggle with acne, and more than 14 million Americans battle rosacea. 1 in 10 people suffer from chronic dermatitis or eczema. So these are not just cosmetic issues. They itch, they burn, and they crush confidence. And I have been dealing with this for many years. I can't believe how well the ivermectin cream works. It's called Clear Skin Ivermectin Cream from the Wellness Company. It's a dermatologist designed prescription formula that targets the root cause safely, gently, and under the skin. So it helps to clear your clogged pores and brighten the skin. It reduces inflammation, and it helps control bacterial overgrowth to calm in irritation. It's amazing. I love this product. You can have it too. Go to twc.health/joy. That's twc.health/joy. Use the promo code JOY. You'll save $20 off plus free shipping in your first for your first order. So that's twc.health/joy. twc.health/joy. And let me tell you, it doesn't help. It doesn't help to have to be on the video every single day. You know, I used to be a podcaster, and that was great. I could come in my pajamas with my hair everywhere, don't have to do hair and makeup. It was just audio, radio, and podcast. And ever since platforming out to all of these video platforms, it matters a little bit more, and you want to have that confidence. I want to have that confidence. So I'm super thankful to the folks over at TWC. The ivermectin cream is an absolute miracle worker. So thank you to the Wellness Company and all of our sponsors here on the Shannon Joy Show. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. Great to see everyone on the live chat. If you are on Facebook, Substack, Twitter, or YouTube and you want to say hello, make sure to say hello. I see you, JZB Clinton. The GOP loses elections because of cheating, period. The Democrats cannot win without cheating. Why don't you think they want voter ID laws? Well, no, I can tell you, as someone involved in New York politics for the past 15 years, the Republicans lose on purpose. It is a strategy, and they deploy it every 2 to 4 years here in New York State. It is horrifying to watch, but that is the protocol, because they don't need to be in power to get all of the government contracts and to get all of the grift and the pay to play. So they're all making money. They're making millions upon millions of dollars. And a lot of the money they're making on raising the hopes of New Yorkers, false hopes, and then, obviously dashing them. But it is a big, big money operation here in New York, and there's no other way to describe it. So I'm sorry, Jay-Z Brooklyn, you are absolutely wrong. Strident Conservative, great to see you. Shameless plug. My current post shows that Trump is using ME wars to make billions in crypto. Strident Conservative, I will link your great outlet, by the way, stridentconservative.com. That is David Leach. I will link that tomorrow to my show notes, David, and I will use it in my analysis of the Trump crypto scandal. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I see you, Chronozone 777 on Substack. Arthur says, congratulations on your candidacy. Thank you so much, Arthur. I appreciate you. Bill Benz, great to see you on the live chat. Do Not Obey is with us. Who else do we have? Ollie Robin 9, Mod Trend, great to see you. I hope everyone is doing well today. It's absolutely beautiful here in New York State. Spring has sprung. Opossum King is with us. Trump is willing to give up the rights and privileges afforded to citizens for FISA laws, which allow spying on Americans without lawful warrants, because our military patriots desperately need it. Yeah, that's BS. We've been going after those FISA laws for years here on the Shannon Joy Show. And a lot of people, have elected Republicans and Trump to take care of some of those things. But as always, they rug pull and they backstab and they lie. That's what these politicians do. And yeah, Zen Woman. Oh, I heard thunderstorms in Oswego County. It's sunny here in New York, in Monroe County, New York, Zen Woman. But I mean, it is April. April showers bring May flowers. Those are the seasons here in New York State. So we're always thankful for the showers. And, sometimes you got to get outside and into the good weather to forget about all of these things. I try to do that sometime. Gardening. I'm picking up gardening this summer. Well, I picked it up last summer because amidst all these crazy headlines, we have to actually live. But there's a lot going on today. I want to start with this. And when I say a stunner poll, I mean it's a stunner poll. This was conducted by Politico. This is not a anti-vaccine friendly outlet. Very mainstream news media, quasi left-wing media outlet. Politico Public First Poll and reported by Yahoo News. So let's start right there. This is not fringe. This isn't a fringe poll. This isn't a small poll. This is mainstream news media. They do not report on these things. They haven't. Again, I've been on the vaccine beat for over 10 years, and we have never been able to permeate into mainstream news media. And now we're seeing it more and more often. New York Times, New Yorker, Yahoo News here, and Politico. That's number one. This shows you that this sentiment has gone mainstream. So according to the poll, they found that 46% of US adults believe that vaccine facts are still up for debate and that enforcing their use is damaging, while another report confirms this rising sentiment. This is a complete 180 from 10 years ago. I will tell you, people used to look at me like I had 3 heads if I ever mentioned any vaccine skepticism whatsoever. Like, it was something that was never discussed. In fact, I'll never forget hanging out with my neighbors, with all of the kids, and mentioning that I was discussing on my show and researching vaccine injury and the vaccine schedule. And I will never forget the response. They're like, "Are you crazy?" Like, they literally came at me. "You're not going to vaccinate your kids. You're an anti-vaxxer." It was insane. It was insane. And I stepped back, and that was actually right after I posted on Facebook. The first time I came up against the vaccine Nazis, the vaccine mob, was about 10 years ago when I very innocuously posted on Facebook. I mean, all of my children had had their vaccines. I had vaccines as a child. I had never in my life thought about vaccines. I was in my mid 30s, late 30s, right? And beginning to investigate it a little bit. And for whatever reason, I posted on Facebook something along the lines of, I don't think, and I had the show at the time, I said, I don't think that anyone should ever be forced to take an injection or to have an injection or to take a vaccine, right? I hadn't even solidified my thoughts on vaccines. I didn't even know what the vaccine adverse event reporting system was. I didn't know anything about liability protection for pharmaceutical companies. I didn't know anything about the mechanisms of harm and the history of vaccine development in the US. No, I didn't know any of that. I just innocently stated, I don't think anyone should be forced. I mean, you might love vaccines, but we shouldn't strap people down and shove a needle in their arm, like at the point of a gun. How crazy is that? And I'll never forget, it was like the gates of hell on Facebook opened up. And I had a small following at that point, but hundreds, maybe thousands of comments from all over the country. And it was the first time I ever heard the term anti-vaxxer. It's a slur. It was meant to denigrate and demean and dismiss and dehumanize people who had real questions about vaccines. Like back in the day, and that's why the headline of today's show is America is anti-vaxxer now. I mean, full stop. Because back in the day, and even as little as a year ago or 2 years ago, if you had questions about vaccines, you were an anti-vaxxer. If you happened to want to see the package insert, the list of ingredients in the vaccines, and you ask your pediatrician to deliver that to you so you can decide whether or not to give that to your child, you're an anti-vaxxer. If you have the outrageous opinion that people shouldn't be strapped down and at the point of a gun forced to take a vaccine or penalty, you're an anti-vaxxer. If you would like to do a cost-benefit analysis, what is the risk of adverse event or allergic reaction versus of a vaccine versus the risk of dying or being severely injured by something like measles, mumps, or rubella? If you even dare to ask to do a cost-benefit analysis, you're an anti-vaxxer. If you innocently think that pharmaceutical companies should be liable when they kill people or injure people and do not provide appropriate informed consent to people with their pharmaceutical products, their vaccines, you're an anti-vaxxer. If you think we should acknowledge or even help someone who is vaccine injured, you're an anti-vaxxer, right? The definition of anti-vaxxer is so insane and has been so insane over the past 25, 30 years as they've tried to keep the lid on this, that it becomes absurd. And this is why this fact that 46% of US adults believe that vaccines are still up for debate and that enforcing their use is damaging is amazing. It means that anti-vaxxers have gone mainstream. Congratulations, America. We did it. We did it. And it is only going to tumble from here. More from this poll. Vaccine skepticism is as prevalent, they say, as the confidence. Only 39% of the respondents in the poll said that vaccine science is clear and that it is damaging to question it. They even loaded this poll. Like the wording on this poll was meant to get as high acceptance or confidence in vaccines as they could possibly get, right? I can just tell by the overview here. The mandate opposition is huge. According to Gallup data and other related poll analysis, public support for required childhood vaccinations has dropped significantly now, with only 51% in favor of mandatory vaccines, down from 62% in 2019. And I would say 80% in places like New York State. I mean, if you even mentioned a religious exemption, a medical exemption, people would think you were crazy. There is rising distrust, indicating that trust in the CDC vaccine information has fallen to its lowest level since the pandemic began. And all of this is resulting in some really great developments. Declining uptake. Vaccine hesitancy is up. Newborns are receiving fewer hepatitis B vaccines at at birth. It fell from 83% to 73%. And now there are rising parental concerns. Here's another Pew Research Center study that found that 24% of parents with children under 18 have low confidence in the safety of the childhood vaccine schedule. Guys, you're never going to get perfect, right? There are going to be people who will die on the cross of vaccines and the science. They're in a cult. You'll never get them. You'll never get them. But these numbers, these 30%, 40%, and now 46%, this is going mainstream. I cannot tell you how amazing this is as someone who has been in the trenches. And I have worked with people like Mary Holland and John Gilmore and Rita Palmer and Michael Caine, and people who have been organizing for Children's Health Defense, organizing here in New York State against the mandates. They've been in this battle for 25 years. Andrew Wakefield, Dr. Andrew Wakefield, the very first medical doctor to stand up and speak out about the mechanisms of harm, autism, and MMR. And he was one of the first to be absolutely annihilated, persecuted, demeaned, the very first quote unquote anti-vaxxer. And now here 25 years later, they were right. We were right. The science was wrong. And people are beginning to wake up to all of this. And it is amazing. Mod Trend, I see you on the live chat. Chronozone 777. The Amish are officially declared the world's healthiest children after rejecting big pharma vaccines. We now have case studies. Another poll here, COVID vaccine uptake. Yes, uptake. Yesterday I said it was 10%. I was wrong. It's roughly 16%, a little bit higher. But that's amazing, despite $1 billion, maybe $2 billion in censorship, propaganda, and gaslighting. As early as April 2026, according to the CDC, U.S. adults have received, only 16% of U.S. adults have received the 2025-26 COVID shots. More great news. Because the fewer people who take the COVID shots, the fewer people who will be injured and who will be killed by the COVID shots. And that's a great thing. Arthur 1, I see you on the live chat. Great to see you. Do Not Obey is with us as well. I know, Mark the Regan, Andrew Wakefield's original observations were very, very mild, only connecting vaccines to, no, I believe, well, you said IBS. I thought that he had connected MMR to autism or made a statement about that, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. So this is amazing, amazing news that doesn't stop lunatic judges, crazy lunatic judges. It just shows you how deeply embedded vaccine mandates are in case law here in the United States, at the state level and the federal level. These judges are not ready to let go of the false assumption that it is constitutional for a political body, an institutional body, a government, an educational establishment, or a corporation has the right to force inject their students, their constituents, or their citizens. So this is something, it's really interesting to watch. Supreme Court, federal courts, local courts. There is a very strong, I would say, attempt or mission to keep embedded in case law this idea that these institutions have the right to force inject people or force people to take medical interventions against their will. And I think it has to do with control. It has to do with wanting to maintain governmental control over our bodies. It's the closest that governmental institutions can get to actually full-scale slavery. If they can seize you and force you by or coerce you by taking away your money, your freedom, your job, your reputation, your ability to pursue happiness or a livelihood, if they can force you to undergo interventions that can kill you, right? Or severely injure you or your children, that is the closest thing to human slavery we have in this country today, right? Because that is full-scale ownership of your body. They can do anything they want to it, anything. And they tried diligently during the COVID years to do that. And so that's why I think that the case law might be the most difficult battle that we face. We continue to get smashed down in courts. And this piece, an appeals court upholds West Virginia vaccine mandate. They reject religious exemptions for an online school. This is crazy. So this is from the Defender, Children's Health Defense, written by Brenda Belletti, PhD. And here's the headline: a West Virginia appeals court. Now, this is interesting. Deep red West Virginia. If I'm not mistaken, Republican governor, Republican legislature, deep red. Okay, so this is your proof that vaccinaziism is not limited to blue states like New York State and California. It is practiced vehemently in red states. West Virginia is one of the worst. Virginia is pretty bad. And Texas is up there in terms of vaccinaziism. So this is what is going down in West Virginia. As of today, West Virginia can enforce its school vaccination law without offering religious exemptions. A federal appeals court ruled on Wednesday. This ruling overturned a lower court decision that had temporarily allowed a child who had not received the all-state mandated vaccines to remain enrolled in an online public school. So this child is at no risk to any other child because they are attending an online school. It is virtual schooling. There is no risk of transmission. There's no risk of spreading disease. Yet these states and these courts need to hang on to the right to force vaccinate children. Now, maybe that's because they injure so many children with the childhood mandated vaccine schedule that it creates a massive market for the pharmaceutical and medical industrial complex, right? If you can injure and harm as many millions of children as you possibly can in the early years and set them up for a life of long-term debilitating disease, well, then you can cha-ching all the way throughout their lives. Allergies, asthma, autism, you name it. It's all out there and it's big money. And as we know, there's big money in making people sick and then selling them a cure. And then the cure making them sick and then selling them another cure. And you continue down that path until you've completely destroyed their bodies and they die. And, the industrial complex has made, I don't know, a couple $1 million off of you. It's a really disgusting business model, to be honest. And I'm sure that these judges don't look that closely into it, but this is just insane. They are saying here that this child, in order to go to public school, an online public school, needs to be vaccinated and they cannot have a religious exemption. All of these exemptions, I don't get too deep into exemptions because frankly, I think we need to focus on like the big deal. Like you shouldn't have to have an exemption. You shouldn't have to give a religious justification to decline a medical intervention. You shouldn't have to give a philosophical justification for declining a medical intervention. You shouldn't have to give a medical justification for declining an intervention. You should just be able to say no. I don't have to give a reason to the government or a school administrator. I don't have to submit a claim or hire a lawyer or jump through all of these hoops. The answer is no, right? We, the people, we have the right, we have God given natural rights to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. All right. We should not be forced to ever take a medical intervention against our will. But, and I would assume that in Virginia or West Virginia, there are no medical exemptions at all. In New York State, there are zero medical exemptions, and zero religious exemptions, and zero philosophical exemptions. So every child to go to preschool, parochial school, Catholic school, Christian school, public school, private school in New York must be vaccinated fully according to the CDC recommended schedule. There are no exemptions at all. I've only heard of a handful, and they've had to go to court to get even medical exemptions. And the medical doctors and pediatricians who give medical exemptions in New York State are put on a list of bad pediatricians by the New York State Health Department. It's really disgusting. Really disgusting. And this is another reason that I have decided it's time to join Larry Sharpe in his campaign for governor of New York as his lieutenant governor. Because should we win, I'm going to walk you guys through our path and all of the wins along the way. It's a long shot to win the governorship of New York State. I will say that off the bat. But if there is a miracle, if we're able to do this, and I am in the position of lieutenant governor, I will make it my mission. It will be exclusive. It will be very, very narrow. But I will make it my mission to craft and spearhead the passage of the most aggressive medical freedom legislation in the country. I mean, I'll spend the entirety of Larry's tenure as governor working on that and pushing through, because the medical tyranny will not happen in New York State. We'll take it all apart. So I'm very focused in that, and that's something that I think that I could make a difference. Lieutenant governor is really a figurehead position. Like, there are no responsibilities whatsoever. But I've talked to Larry about what I would like to do, and he is 100% completely on board. So we'll do that. I see you on Substack. Yes, Marge Parker. Andrew Wakefield made a connection to the MMR shot and how they were affecting young African-American boys. And because he researched that, they took his license, smeared him, and destroyed him. And that was almost 25 years ago. So Charlotte, great to see you. Wow, we truly are not free. And that tells you all you need to know about really how sick they are. And it's a grand evil plan. You know, a lot of conservatives on the right, they'll call themselves fiscal conservatives or Second Amendment conservatives or constitutional conservatives or all sorts of qualifiers to their type of conservatism. And, you know, they'll go to bat on the right to carry a firearm. They'll go to bat on the right to not pay income taxes or lower income taxes or whatever, rein in the budget. I mean, they let the Republicans get away with lying to them every single cycle. Like, it's crazy. But, you know, those are their issues. And it's just so interesting to me when you think about like the most fundamental basic issue. Yes, I'm a Second Amendment proponent. Yes, I'm a Fourth Amendment privacy proponent. I'm a proponent of the First Amendment. You know, they're all about anti-censorship and free speech and all of those things, right? But at the baseline, if your government can force you or coerce you, which is force, by taking things away from you or penalizing you, to be injected with poison, all of the other issues tend to pale in comparison. Because if you let that camel's nose under the tent, they will seize it. And we've seen this in countries like Canada. They will use that to force you to take any intervention, right? I mean, they could put in place policies of mass euthanasia if a population of people, come down with an infectious disease that can't be cured, they can force people into quarantine camps, which are concentration camps. I mean, once you let them establish that right to forcibly inject a human, all bets are off. And that was why what happened during COVID, and especially with the rollout of the shots, was so fundamentally important. And it's why it's my number one issue, because all of the other things, don't matter if you're dead. If the government can inject you and kill you and you're dead, it's not going to matter if you can carry a firearm, or if you pay lower taxes, or if the border is closed, or if all the other things, all of the other, most important things on people's, agenda for why they vote for a person. And so this is why that's my number one issue, because that's the baseline. That's the bottom line. And we've seen throughout human history the most horrifying and gruesome acts of mass murder were justified by medical doctors and medical experimentation. It was the medical doctors in Nazi Germany that rolled out the T4 program. That was the first mass euthanasia program where they killed hundreds of thousands of medically fragile Germans prior to, this was 10 years prior to the Holocaust, because they were not useful to society. And they used horrifying methods to conduct this mass killing. And it was legal. It was written into law. It was fully legal, and it was run by doctors. It happened in hospitals. That was the precursor to the gassing of millions of Jews in concentration camps. That laid the groundwork to the Holocaust, democide, a government killing millions of their own people. That's what we did during COVID. We murdered people in hospitals. We murdered people in nursing homes. We murdered people on COVID floors. And then we pushed through poison vaccines, which murdered and maimed and disfigured tens of millions of Americans, hundreds of millions, if not billions of people worldwide. That's the truth of what happened. And what is very unsettling about today is that we were supposed to have a reckoning on that. That's what the 2024 election was all about. That's what the MAGA coalition was all about. We were supposed to have a reckoning. We were supposed to have truth. Instead, we have a cratering economy. We have endless war. We have potential nuclear war. We have corruption, energy crises, and a national health epidemic of people who are injured by these vaccines. So this is why we can't wait for them to do it in Washington, D.C. We have to do it from outside of Washington, D.C. Again, another reason that I have decided to throw my hat into the ring and try to do this political thing here in New York State, bottom up. I would like to put my money where my mouth is. I've been talking about this with you guys for many, many years. And, it's time that I try it myself, and we'll see how things go. Right? Bill Benz, I see you. Shannon Joy, please consider as guerrilla marketing an inside-out resistance, Lucky Larry's preposterous plan if you want to make a dent in New York City hypnosis. I have no idea what you're talking about. If you guys are going to say something on the live chat and you want me to read it or you want me to answer a question, you have to say it in a way that I'm going to understand what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about, Bill, but I appreciate the question. Who else do we have here? Yes, June Bugs, Mama Texas, Nuremberg Code, Hippocratic Oath, and just plain decency and common sense thrown to the ground. Yes, Ollie Robin 9, the Germans actually took a page out of the USA's playbook on eugenics. You're right. Eugenics was, eugenics and the political philosophy of eugenics, which is essentially breeding humans or not breeding unhealthy humans. It's it's not that difficult to understand. It's what farmers do with their chickens and their pigs and their sheep and their cattle and their horses. That's eugenics. Okay. It is controlling the herd. You are slaves. You're penned in. They inject you with whatever they want, right? They keep you alive for a little while and then they kill you when they want to if you're not useful. That's eugenics. Okay. So any type of elevated scientific justification of controlling and culling the herd is ridiculous. Eugenics is farming. That's, I mean, in a nutshell. And these megalomaniac control freak lunatics would love to do this to humans. They're salivating over it. Animal husbandry. Yes, Ollie Robin, 9. They are salivating over culling humanity and controlling humans in the same way they would control chickens, pigs, cows, goats, sheeps, you name it. Sheep. The plural of sheep is sheep. I don't know. Anyway, Han Soto 1, I see you on the live chat. Do not obey. The truth is what is feared today. A lazy, dumbed down population is conditioned to this point. Convenience and comfort, we have been sold. I agree. But again, the headline, I mean, this poll showing that 46% of Americans are questioning vaccines is huge. It means that we are not so lazy and we are not so dumbed down anymore, that more and more people are waking up, and that's a great thing. Marge Parker, I see you on Substack. And let's see, Vaccine-Nazis, good term. I also like Peggy Hall's right of no consent. It's the same concept that you are expressing from Ernie Rockwell on Substack. Yes, they have created a lot of vaccine abolitionists, and I would put myself into that camp. I see you, Futurez, on the live chat. It is great to see you. Who else do we have here? Zen Woman, great to see you as well. Do not obey. Our food is lacking proper nutrition, and the body is being infiltrated daily with toxins, heavy metals, chemicals, and whatever else they are purposefully feeding us. Do not obey. I understand what you are saying, but there is a huge difference between ingestion, which is eating something that is poisoned, and injection, which is injecting something which is poison. Our bodies are very capable. Now, certainly we don't want to be ingesting poison on a regular basis. You want to watch what you put into your body, and you want to make sure that you're eating as healthily as you possibly can. But do not obey. Our bodies are designed to protect us from ingestion of poison. Our stomach, right? Our liver, our intestines. There are ways that our body will take care of those poisons that you inject or that you ingest. When you inject, if you were to inject something as benign as milk or egg proteins, and this came out of an amazing talk that Sasha Latipova did at the Summit for Truth and Wellness a couple weeks ago. In fact, Sasha is going to join me next week to go over her presentation in full here on the show because it was so important. But bottom line, if you were to inject, say you were to eat an egg and you're allergic to eggs. Maybe you're not allergic to eggs and you just don't like them, but maybe you eat an egg and it doesn't sit well with you, right? Your body's going to take care of that. You might be uncomfortable, but your body will take care of it. If you were to inject egg proteins into your body, it could kill you. Okay? It could kill you like that. Milk proteins at certain levels. So there is a big difference. And I think that this is a very, very important point because they would like to distract us from everything is killing you. This is why we're seeing Lululemon being sued by the Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton. He probably doesn't want to focus on the poison that is being injected into Texas babies and children on a regular basis. He would rather go after Lululemon, which is a seemingly, I guess, left-leaning clothing company for women because of forever chemicals that they have in their clothing, which is seeping into people's skin and killing them. Like, that is so much less damaging than injecting chemicals into infant babies, Ken Paxton. And this is why I don't cover those on my show. And this is why it really frustrates me when the majority of MAHA and the medical freedom community is focusing more on food and air and water and clothing rather than the giant elephant in the room that are the shots. So this is, an area that is highly frustrating to me. Future as, what is Shannon's position on abortion? I'm highly pro-life, of course. Very, very pro-life. Charlotte. And still the propaganda machine is still running with fear of not being vaxxed, even on Twitter, as they have been running it through their own veins. Such denial. And it's all in the shots by design. Love, Sasha. We're going to be bringing Sasha in next week on the Shannon Joy Show. So let's go to break. We have about 20 minutes left in the show, and I want to do a robust question and answer. When we come back, we're going to talk about the campaign for governorship of New York State. Larry Sharpe running for governor in New York State. A lot of you have a lot of opinions about that. I am joining him as lieutenant governor on the ticket, and we have a lot to do in the next 5 weeks in order to achieve that. So when we come back in a special segment on the Shannon Joy Show, separated from my show, I'm going to answer all your questions and let you know about my decision. If you have questions about my belief systems and my platforms and what we plan on doing and what our goals are, now is your opportunity. If you're watching on Facebook, Substack, Twitter, Rumble, live chat, put your questions in all caps, make them pithy and make them understandable. If you talk about something and I have no clue what you're talking about, I can't answer the questions. So if you have questions or comments, this is your moment when we come back from the SJ show to get into all of that. So when we come back, and then tomorrow, we're not going to get to the Japan protocol today. This is huge. This is huge. I posted this out today this is great news, on Twitter. Miracles are happening for the COVID vaccine injured in Japan. Dr. Kevin McCarran and his team are treating COVID vaccine injured in Japan, and the results are astonishing. These are severely injured patients are coming in, many of them in wheelchairs, and they're walking out. His treatment essentially clears spike proteins, amyloid blood clots, autoantibodies, and misfolding proteins from the blood using dual filter plasmapheresis and using pre-growth stem cells to help the body heal itself. So there's an amazing testimony of Ken Evans that I posted in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show today. Again, also Lindsay House, who has been on the Shannon Joy Show, one of the most severely vaccine injured victims out there. And she's been speaking out about this for many, many years, fighting for her life. She's doing really well. We're going to go over all of this tomorrow on the SJ show. And I've also reached out. I've been working with Kevin McCarran for the past couple months, trying to get him on the show. I want to see, he's on Japan time. We're on East Coast time. And I'm going to see if we can get him in tomorrow to talk about this as well, because this is, it's amazing. It's unbelievable. So we'll do that tomorrow, along with the Trump crypto scandal. We'll go into more detail on both of those stories. But for the rest of the show today, as I mentioned, my run for lieutenant governor in New York State alongside Larry Sharpe. We're going to be answering all your questions when we come back on the SJ show. Keep it tuned right here. We'll be back in a minute. Hey everyone, I just want to take a moment to thank one of my longtime friends, associates, my financial advisor, and a beloved sponsor of the Shannon Joy Show, Don Polano over at PCM and Associates. Don Polano, as many of you know, was the very first Shannon Joy Show advertiser almost 12 years ago, and he's been with us ever since. I trust Don Polano. He manages some of my assets and my retirement fund, and he's offering his services to all of you. He can take clients anywhere in the country and even across the globe over at PCM and Associates. And as you guys know, it is so important today. There's so much volatility and chaos. You need a human being, a person that you trust, and a person that shares your values. And that's Don Polano at PCM and Associates. So if you are looking for someone to help you manage your retirement or have investment advice, please consider calling Don Polano over at PCM Associates. His number, 1-800-536-1368. That's 1-800-536-1368. 536-1368. And of course, you can go to pcmpolano.com. That is pcmpolano.com to learn about all of his services and get in contact with his team. Again, so thankful for Don Polano at PCM and Associates, and I think that you are really going to appreciate his services. So that number again, 1-800-536-1368 for a financial advisor that you can trust. Hey everyone, I am so proud to recommend Shift Gold to this audience as the gold standard for metals purchasing and investing. I couldn't ask for a better partner to help people understand gold and silver and use them as strategic instruments to protect their family's financial future. Peter Schiff's teaching on markets has shaped my understanding of how economies grow and why they collapse. And I've used him as a critical source for my daily broadcast for over 10 years. The Shannon Joy Show audience already knows and loves Peter because he has been such a treasured educator over the years. He is now the preeminent source for rock-solid financial analysis around the world. And this is because he understands the immutable laws of natural markets and his stalwart unwillingness to veer from absolute truths regardless of economic fads and political pressures. Bottom line, he doesn't sell out. And that means a lot to me. I trust Shift Gold, and you can too. Go to shiftgold.com/joy today to get started. You'll find some of the lowest spot prices for gold and silver and critical information on protecting your retirement savings with a gold or silver IRA. That's www.shiftgold.com/joy. Hedge against the chaos with our friends over at Shift Gold. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. And now is your chance to ask any questions about the Sharp Joy ticket for the governorship of New York State in this 2026 election cycle. So if you have a question, if you have a comment, now is your chance to pop it up in the live chat. Of course, we're live on Rumble. Annie is checking on Substack, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. So if you are watching on any of those platforms and you have a question or comment, post it right now. Annie's going to keep an eye on it. Try to keep it as short and succinct as possible so that I can get a grasp on what your question is. And please qualify it if I have no idea what you're talking about. So a question like, well, what do you think about what Larry did in 2018? How can you support that? Well, that doesn't help me. I don't know. So you have to qualify it and ask the question in a way that I can actually answer it. And then we'll move forward. So I see a lot of questions popping in. Before we get started, I want to tell you about how I plan on structuring this run with Larry Sharpe for Lieutenant Governor in New York. I am going to separate the Shannon Joy Show and my business and my advertisers from what I am doing politically in New York State. So you aren't going to see the Shannon Joy Show change a whole lot over the next 5 weeks. If we get on the ballot and we're on the ballot, it'll be over the next, 5-6 months. So we will do the show every day, news of the day and commentary. I'm not going to mix those two. There's nothing legally holding me back from doing that. I've been looking at election law. I've been looking at the FCC or at regulations in that light, and they're very vague. But I just think ethically it is the right thing to do for my advertisers. They don't advertise with me, without not knowing that I'm going to do something politically in New York State. And so I want to respect our relationship and our partnership, and also for all of you, right? Like, this is something that I'm doing separately. There will be an opportunity for us to come together probably on a weekly basis. Larry and I are talking about doing a weekly spaces on Twitter. And then I will probably format something on my channel here that is exclusive for the campaign. So we're going to separate campaigning from the show. And that is voluntary. It's not because I'm forced to do it, but it's because I think it's the right thing to do in terms of running this campaign. So there is, in terms of today, I want to make this statement before we get started, that the discussion that we're having now in the Q&A is not part of the Shannon Joy Show, and it is not it does not reflect any of the opinions or the philosophies of my advertisers on the Shannon Joy Show, but we're going to answer your questions, and then I can direct you to wherever you need to go to get more information. And for now, that place is going to be larrysharp.com. It's larrysharp with an E.com, where you can get a lot of information. So right now, I am going to go to the questions. Here we have on the live chat on Rumble, Mark the Regan. Yes, we will assume now you'll be able to continue your show. Absolutely. The show will continue. It won't be any different. I will be doing the campaigning part-time on the side. And again, as Lieutenant Governor, Larry has been running for governor in New York State in some capacity for about 8 or 9 years. So he's built up a large organization. He knows what he's doing. He is running his campaign. I'm coming in because I believe we need another choice in New York State. And I share his belief that the Democrats and the Republicans are horrifyingly corrupted in New York State, and they're driving the state off a cliff. And so we need another option. His plan is a coalition party. So it's basically any party you want to be involved in under the independent line for your protest vote, to vote against the entrenched political class, which is Republican and Democrat. They work together and they both get rich, filthy, disgustingly rich, having their fake campaigns and their fake elections every 2 to 4 years. So we need a new discussion. We need reform to election law. We need really just to have a mechanism to organize, to go out, to talk to people, to have conversations, to see how people are feeling across the state, and to craft common sense solutions that are max liberty, max constitution, max liberty, minimum government, right? We want most of the governing to happen from the bottom up. We want to empower local governments, local zoning boards, and local communities to do things their way, as long as it's within the confines of the Constitution. And so that can be, you can be a Democrat and agree on those things. You can be a Republican and agree on those things. You could be an independent. You could be from the Working Party or the Conservative Party or whatever party. That is why the umbrella here is anti-corruption, right? We want to do things transparently. And, in a lot of ways, this run is an experiment. The first 5 weeks, we need to get on the ballot, and that's going to be a huge lift. So this thing might be over in 5 weeks, because we need to get 45,000 signatures in New York State in 5 weeks, which is a heavy lift. Now, Larry thinks that there's a path to that, and he's very confident about it. We're going to see what we can do. But, that's going to be the first hurdle that we need to overcome. He's going to need to, raise a good amount of money. The other thing I want to let you guys know is that there's no money exchange here. There's no contract. He is doing all of the fundraising. I have absolutely nothing to do with that. He's not advertising on the Shannon Joy Show, so there's no money transfer whatsoever. This is 100% voluntary. And that's the way we're going to keep it. So that is to keep things very clean, very easy, and we have a handshake contract. So I think that what we're looking to do, I want to know if we can do this. I want to know if you can run a campaign and do it ethically and honestly and transparently and not get into the mud. I know there's so many people out there that are mad at me for even believing that that might be a possibility. And they'll call me a Pollyanna and pat me on the head and tell me that I'm so naive. But I will tell you, that men in politics have told me that I can't do things for the past 12 years. They told me I couldn't launch a radio show. They told me I couldn't fund a radio show. They told me I couldn't grow a radio show. They kicked me off the radio when I proved that I could do it. They told me that I couldn't grow a podcast. I couldn't do it independently. I couldn't do it without picking a side. You got to get on the Trump train. You got to Trump hump in order to make the money, Shannon. You can't do it independently. It's got to be left or right. They've told me time and time again what I can't do and what is impossible. And we've proved them wrong time and time again, just with what we have created here on the Shannon Joy Show. So if they say I can't do it, well, that's fine. Maybe I can't. Maybe we can't. Maybe you can't. Maybe we can't have nice things in the United States of America or in New York State. But I'm willing to try. I don't see the harm in that, right? And that's why I'm going to try. That's the reasoning. Charlotte, I see you on the live chat. Keep up the good fight, Shannon. You're special, and your light is needed in the world. Good will prevail, I believe. and you will win as the old is not working, opening the door for you to win. You know, a lot of this comes through my faith, and you guys know this. Like, we are not called here to live on this earth and stick our head in the sand and worship politicians. We are called to fight for justice. God delivers it, but we're called to go for it. And I know justice is tough and truth is tough to get to in very dark times, but that doesn't mean we give up. And it certainly doesn't mean that we support corrupt people. Future Ez, will Shannon be going throughout the state to campaign? I hope so. I want to meet you face to face. I want to go as far as I can go and to as many places as I can go within the confines of my responsibilities to the show and my family. But I plan on getting out there 100% Future Ez. You guys know that it is in my heart to meet up with you guys face to face. That's why we do the summits. That's why I've helped other campaigns, and I've been active politically in New York State for many, many years. I believe in we the people. I believe that human connections in a room together physically is really important. It creates energy, very positive energy. And so, yes, I would love to do that. Mark the Regan, do you have oh, sorry, not that. Bill Benz, I don't know what you're talking about Lucky Larry's preposterous plan. So if Larry Sharpe has a bad plan, what I'm assuming here is that Bill Benz doesn't like a plan that Larry Sharpe has disseminated or has pitched about something, but I don't know what it is. So I'll have to look at it. And here's the truth, Bill Benz. There are a lot of things about Larry Sharpe's positions that I might not agree with, right? That I would disagree with. Okay. I haven't, I've been watching him for many, many years, and I'll be very honest about the things that I disagree with, and I'll be very honest about the things that I agree with. And I can tell you, I will also be very willing to convince him of my way of thinking, right? So we have a good relationship. And if there are ever any deal breakers, believe me, we're going to have a conversation, and believe me, we'll break the deal, right? If there's something that I just cannot get past and it emerges and he is stubborn and he's not going to, change on it, then, maybe the deal breaks. But at this point, we're just trying to get on the ballot, right? We're just trying to get this thing started. And I think those are discussions that we can have in time. Other questions? Annie, anything on any of the other platforms like Twitter, Substack, Facebook? Let me know if we have some questions. We have some more here on the live chat on Rumble. Pat 1254, Shannon, I think I heard your first show ever on the station that shall never be named on the Shannon Joy Show. It's the tiny, tiny little double wide trailer in a cornfield. They canceled my show, ousted me off of my little radio station because I wasn't Trump humping hard enough for them. It was a privately owned little teeny tiny radio station. And I think it was about, 5,000 watts. I ended up, it was terrible when it happened. That was like 8 or 9 years ago. And I ended up on a much, much, much bigger station, 50,000 watt blowtorch, news radio, Wham 1180, which I remained on for 5 years. And then I branched out into full-time professional podcasting, as you guys know, about 3 years ago. And now, the audience just dwarfs. We're doing, as I mentioned in the intro of the SJ show, we're consistently doing well over 10 million impressions every single month. Some months we're doing 20 million impressions on the Shannon Joy Show. And we're reaching, in terms of eyes and ears viewership each month on all of the different platforms, podcast, and also video casting and all of the different platforms, like well over, I say 1 million, but in some months it's like 2.5, 2.7 million. Every month is different. So we've been able to do that completely independently, outside of the two-party political paradigm, outside of the Republican Party, Democrat Party, outside of the left-wing media money pipeline, outside of the right-wing media money pipeline. We've been able to do it here on the Shannon Joy Show. So why couldn't we do that in some way within the political apparatus? I don't know, but we're going to try. Buskman, Shannon, please don't waste your family's resources. Dear friend, our elections are fixed. You can't win. Now, I hear what you're saying, Buskman, but I don't quite agree with you. I think that in certain circumstances, elections are rigged mainly, sorry, by the false two-party paradigm. The rigging is not necessarily always at the ballot box. The rigging is in the false choice, right? The Democrats and the Republicans with the exact same agendas. They just message those agendas differently to their audiences and their constituents, and they frighten their constituents of each other. And the right wing and left wing news media do this as well. Are elections stolen? Can voting machines be rigged? Yes. Can ballots be rigged, or ballots be erased or stolen? Yes, I think all of that can happen, but a lot of those things are out of my control. Campaigning, in my opinion, is not just about winning or losing at the ballot box. That's the least of it. Campaigning, to me, the process is more important than the outcome. It is meeting people, having conversations. It is developing plans. It's building an infrastructure of an organization, right? When you have email addresses and phone numbers and addresses and you're meeting people and you're connecting across the state and you're connecting on shared values and you're building an organization, that is the most powerful thing that you can do in any state in the nation. People get far too focused on the win or the loss in the tally at the end of the day and less focused on what it means to build the organization. This is exactly how I've built my program. This is exactly the philosophy that I've used to build this network, the SJ network. The organization is the most important element, and that organization will then and can then be used to achieve other goals. So I can walk you guys through some of the goals. I mean, there are a lot of wins that can come out of this collaboration between myself and Larry Sharpe outside of an electoral victory in November. And if you would like to hear about that, I can speak to it a little bit. Oh, Shannon, Lucky Larry refers to Larry Silver. He's referring to a YouTube series. Guys, I can't read your mind. Bill Benz, I love you. You're great. I cannot read your mind. I have no idea. When you say Lucky Larry and watch this YouTube series, I can't answer a question on that. Buskman says, bring on Dr. Douglas Frank. I have no idea who Dr. Douglas Frank is, but I will look into it. Here we go. Rico 917. Campaign promises need to be kept, unlike Trump. I don't disagree. Mr. Worthless Eater says, yes, organizing is critical. Dino Fun, this is a great question. And we have about 5 more minutes to answer some questions. What will happen to the show if you win? So the position of Lieutenant Governor of New York State is largely a it's not, how do I put this? It's not a functioning position. So there are no real roles for a lieutenant governor. The only role really is to be able to step in should something happen to the governor. So tragically, an illness, a sickness, they get arrested, go to jail. I mean, if the governor is unable to function and do the duties necessary of the governor of New York State, that's when a lieutenant governor would step in. But typically a lieutenant governor can do as much or as little as they want. So I would not be moving to Albany. I would stay right here in New York and I would continue the show. And I'd be ready to step in when necessary. But I would take on, as a pet project and as a very serious project, traveling to Albany at least once or twice a month and beginning to put together a coalition to pass the most extensive medical freedom legislation this country has ever seen. So I would make that my mission, a very narrow mission within that role of lieutenant governor or governor. And I would obviously work with some of the best in the business in terms of crafting that type of legislation. Leslie Manukian is unbelievable. Debbie Lerman, Sasha Latipova, the entire team over at Children's Health Defense. John Gilmore, Michael Caine. John Gilmore is the Autism Action Network. Michael Caine is Teachers for Choice. Mary Holland, president of Children's Health Defense. Every resource that I have available, Bobby Ann Cox, Sujata Gibson, two of the most amazing attorneys who've been fighting for medical freedom. Also, Chad Davenport. I mean, these are people that I've been working with for 10 years here in New York State. So the team is ready to go in terms of crafting legislation and then shoving it through, using the media, using organization, using, campaign tactics to go in and force Democrats and Republicans in these legislative bodies to do the right thing and cast the right votes. So that would be my mission. And that's what I would plan to do in that role as lieutenant governor. Shannon, says Guitar Lily, governors in New York State are always taken down by the attorney general. That's how we got Hochul. Well, things are always the same until they change. And there's no way to see if we can change it if we don't do anything. So I get it. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. But for whatever reason, I feel very at peace with this decision. I feel very at peace at this decision and about this decision. And I'm okay either way, right? If we do not get on the ballot, if we don't succeed in getting 45,000 signatures in the next 5 weeks, then I will have been thankful to be considered running for this. And all of the efforts and the activity that I'm going to engage in the next 5 weeks will be absolutely worth it. If we get on the ballot, this is where if we got on the ballot, that's the big win, because there are so many directions that we can go in terms of a win, even if we don't win the governorship. But if we get on the ballot, our chances of winning the governorship and the lieutenant governorship go up exponentially, because we are in a state that is highly divided. We've never had a coalition party, and we're moving into very difficult economic times, and people are generally unsatisfied with everything. So at the very least, if we get on the ballot and earn 2% of the vote, which is incredibly doable. I've run an independent candidate before in Monroe County. If you guys recall, we ran Laura Jean Dykeman as an independent in Monroe County in the town of Pittsford. And we did that. She went up against the Democrat and the Republican on the independent line. And no one thought we would get 1% or 2% or 3%. She got 30% of the vote. It was the highest vote percentage gained by anyone on an independent line in the history of Monroe County, perhaps the history of the state. So when you give people a viable candidate on that independent line, and it is a coalition party, right? It is essentially a vote of no confidence against the Democrats and the Republicans. You can potentially achieve something, but even if we don't, that 2% will give us a party in New York State, a legitimate coalition party. And the name of the party would be the Coalition Party. So that is, so along the way, there are a lot of different wins that we can claim in this process. And again, I am just looking at exploring this, right? It's almost, as I mentioned before, an experiment. And a lot of people think we can't do it, and maybe we can't, but that's never stopped me before. Ollie Robin 9, maybe Shannon, we can change how they're treating farmers in New York State. Absolutely. Guitar Lily, Shannon, please don't misunderstand me. I'm thrilled that you're running. Just saying, you might be more than just a ceremonial lieutenant governor. Oh my gosh, I can't even. Devastatingly handsome Dr. Joy is like, why do you do the things that you do, Shannon? What goes through your head? And I don't know. Listen, if someone came to me 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 6, 5, 4, 3, all the way down the line. If Larry Sharp came to me a year ago and said, Shannon, I want you to do this, I would say no. I've never, but for whatever reason, I don't know why, this just feels like the right thing to do. And I'm very comfortable with it. And I'm excited to see if we can do this and try something new and put my money where my mouth is. And you guys will be there alongside with me for the whole thing, right? So we'll do this together. and see how it goes. And yeah, any, more questions? I think we're out of time. We are definitely out of time. Oh, I see you on Charlotte on X. What's meant to be will be no matter what. The world needs change. So believe, question. Will you show studies to help more people understand the ingredients in other vaccines? We could do another deep dive on the history of vaccines, the ingredients in vaccines, the mechanisms of harm in vaccines. I haven't done it in a while on the show just because I've done it. I mean, in the past 10 years, I've probably done 1,000 shows on all of that. And usually that falls on deaf ears. But Charlotte, now that 46% of the American people are questioning vaccines, it might be just the time to dive right back in and get into the nitty gritty about how dangerous vaccines are. And we're going to start that actually. Do not miss my show next week with Sasha Latapova, because her presentation at the Summit for Truth and Wellness on the mechanism of harm in vaccines, all vaccines, COVID, MMR, DTaP polio, meningitis, hepatitis B, the flu shot, you name it. The mechanisms of harm are all very similar. And the way that she breaks down, I mean, it's a brilliant breakdown on how the injections are likely at the root cause of nearly every type of chronic disease that we have here in the United States of America. Diabetes, cancers, asthma, allergies. I mean, you name it, it's out there. And you guys are going to, I mean, the presentation, I talked to her yesterday. I said, we have to recreate your presentation on the show. So yes. Chronozone 777, Candace Owens explored vaccines. I loved it. Okay. All right. Rico 917, Shannon's hair and nails look great. Yes. Thank you. Just got them done. Appreciate that. Appreciate that you noticed. And yes. Bill Ben, soundly sounds like Dr. Joy and her dad are a lot more Lonsberry than Shannon in perspective. You're so funny, Bill. Bill is feisty, man. You are feisty. All right, guys. Thank you for being with us today. That is all the time we have for the Q&A here on the SJ Show. But keep it tuned here. We will let you know. I will let you know when we will be doing campaign-focused shows here on the channel and on Facebook. So I'll keep you in the loop and all that. Meanwhile, if you want to get involved, if you want to sign up for updates in the newsletter, if you want to contribute and learn all about that, go to LarrySharp.com. That's LarrySharp.com. That is the campaign website. You can also grab the petitions there, download them on legal paper. So that's 18.5 by 14, not your regular loose leaf, not the 8 by 10, but 8.5 by 14. Print out those petitions. You can go to everyone you know who is registered to vote in New York State and have them sign the petition. Then you send it in to Larry's campaign headquarters, and that's how we're going to do this. So LarrySharp.com, that's LarrySharp.com is the website. Big thank you to our sponsors, The Wellness Company, the Satellite Phone Store, Peter Schiff, Schiff Gold, and also our friends over at PCM and Associates. You'll be hearing from them more tomorrow and on Friday. I'm going to do a live show on Friday as well because we had a short week, but I am going to be self-producing. So thank you to Annie for producing the SJ Show. Thank you to all of you for being with us today. Have a great day. We'll be back to do it all again right here on the Shannon Joy Show.